I'm Michella Chester with NCAA Digital. I am joined by Myles Amine from Michigan Wrestling today. Myles, thank you so much for joining me and taking the time out of your day. So for those that don't know, you are not only in a family full of wrestlers, but a family full of Michigan wrestlers. I mean, you grew up wrestling with your dad in the basement. Can you kind of tell us that story and how it shaped you not only into the wrestler you are today, but just the person you are as we sit and speak right now?
Yeah. First off, thanks for having me. But I like to think I had a choice of whether or not I was going to wrestle. But, the more I think about it, the more I think it was kind of something that I was born into. Obviously I'm one of 6 Michigan wrestlers in my family, past or present. And that kind of speaks to the tradition that we've built at Michigan. But yeah, it really did start, in the living room floor. And my brother and I didn't even really go into a wrestling room when we started wrestling. It was more just like we had to find a way to get rid of all of our energy. So we would end up just like wrestling each other till exhaustion in the living room, and which my mom was not a big fan of. But so yeah, I mean, that kind of toughness and that wrestling mindset was something that I think was just so natural for me growing up, and because my dad was just a great coach and mentor. And, as well as having, my cousins, my uncle also kind of having that wrestling mindset, it was crucial for getting me to where I am now.
So a family full of wrestlers, 7 years now at Michigan, a lifetime full of commitment, but you love the sport. What part of the sport do you identify with so strongly?
I like the true like the warrior mentality of wrestling. Just kind of how it's very like primitive. It's kind of like feels so natural to just, have that physicality aspect. I mean, when I grew up, I loved playing all physical contact sports. And I think, having a brother that was close in age, that probably helped because, he and I, like I said, from a young age, just always, fighting, and we would kind of take our anger out in fighting in sport. And so that's one aspect. And the other is just the what you put in is what you get out mentality in wrestling. I think that, that's in all sport, but especially in wrestling, because it's an individual sport, and, you really have nobody else to blame but yourself for the outcome, whether it's a good or bad outcome. And I just love that. I think that accountability and self accountability is something that I can really resonate with, not just in wrestling, but kind of take that into, other areas of my life.
Yeah, I figured you settled a lot of those brother fights on the wrestling mat. I can't
Yeah,
imagine what
totally.
that's like. But I want to ask you, this huge question. You're going on your 7th year at Michigan. What motivated you to come back?
The team. I mean, it sounds pretty cliche, but obviously we have the mantra, the team, at Michigan. And when looking at the potential team we were going to have this year, I knew that it was definitely gonna need some momentum to get all the guys to come back that did. And with Stevan and Logan, and I knew that they were a little bit more unsure than I was. So I was like, all right, I got to get the ball rolling and make a decision that not only is going to benefit myself, because wrestling in these NCAA seasons really does make you a better wrestler and just kind of a tougher person, but also just because I knew that was going to help to get those guys to come back, and for us to, look to have one of the best seasons we've ever had in program history. And 100 years of, Michigan wrestling, that would be really special to do. And even considering that now the NCAA is in Detroit in a few weeks. So a lot of stars kind of aligning, and it just felt like the right thing.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that later. But what is it like wrestling for 7 years at the collegiate level? How ingrained do you become with the program? I mean, not a lot of people can say they've been at college for that long.
I'm kind of like I'm not even like the father of the team. I think I'm like the grandfather at this point. We actually were talking about this the other day. It's kind of a funny joke, was that like a lot of my teammates, like basically the freshman and sophomore, were in middle school when I was in college. So that was kind of a creepy comment that made me feel like way older than I need to feel. Being 25, a lot of people don't consider that old of an age, but when you're competing in college athletics, that's kind of like the top of the list. So I I really do feel like the best part about it is that I don't feel that far off. Like I feel very healthy physically and mentally. So I think that that's just kind of cheers to the coaches at Michigan, because just helping me, just kind of stay on track all of these 7 years and not get burnt out is something that I know for me, if I had it in my way and developed my own training, that I would probably be burnt out by now, because sometimes I got to pull back the reins on me and I just trust the process with them.
You go to the Olympics, you win a bronze medal. Now, all of a sudden, you can be considered one of the best wrestlers in the world. I mean, what did you learn about yourself from that? And how did you bring that back and translate it into your role at Michigan?
I think that the biggest thing I learned was just, it really is, the margin of error is really like razor thin when it comes to wrestling. Because, the interesting thing was I was on the one side of the coin where, at the NCAA tournament in last March, I was the number one seed and I ended up losing in the semifinal, and it's kind of heartbreaking for me, really expecting to win. And then, fast forward 6 months later in Tokyo, and I found a way, kind of being the underdog, to get it done and win a bronze medal. And not a lot of people thought that I, could do that. So just realizing how important it is to stay mentally focused in wrestling. It's such a physical game, but also just mental, and really just trusting in my process and really believing in your goals that you have. I think that's not just important, that's literally the make or break between, the good and great wrestlers. So that was really what I learned about myself, was just that, I think that if you really set a goal and you commit to it, that you can achieve it.
And I want to add on that, because last year your goal was to win a national championship. You get third at NCAA's, like you just mentioned. So how do you rebound from that? What do you envision for yourself for this year? And then on top of that, I've heard you say, saying you want to be a national champion is one thing, doing it is another. What is it going to take for you?
Yeah, I mean, so last year, and kind of to add on to that last question, I think one thing I take a lot of pride in is just turning those tragedies into triumphs. Kind of, trying to flip the script and write my own story, not let, anybody else write it for me. I know that it was kind of a big letdown for not only myself, but, just, a lot of people that really wanted to see me do it. So, I felt like I had to just, instead of, feeling sorry for myself, I had to get back and double down on my not only my belief in myself, but just, the commitment that I had to the sport of wrestling. So, 7 years deep, you have to enjoy it somehow. So the pressure's really off. I, put in all the work, done all the extra stuff. So just go out there and have fun.
And it couldn't be in a better way with, like you mentioned, the championship being in Detroit. I mean, 7 years at Michigan, and not only that, but it runs in your family's blood. So what would it mean to bring a title to this team that you hold so dearly to your heart and to your family's heart? What would it mean for you to help your team win that title this year in Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, it would be very special, and it would mean, all the reasons why I came back, basically. When I was thinking about that, those would all kind of come true. And, this is something that I've been dreaming of, but just, my family, my dad and my mom and dad have put so much into it. So, regardless of the outcome, just going out there and just representing them proudly is what I'm most concerned about. Just go out there and, leave it all on the mat for 7 minutes, and the outcome usually takes care of itself. So it would, that's what I'm, really planning to do. And I know that if I do that, then I'm going to be proud of myself, and my family will be proud of me.
Absolutely. Well, Myles, best of luck to you the rest of the way, and thanks for joining me.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.